The universe is not some distant force sitting in the sky, handing out random experiences to a chosen few while withholding them from others. It is not a system that operates on favoritism or luck. It responds directly, intimately, and consistently to the state of your inner world. Every thought you nurture, every emotion you sustain, every belief you hold as true becomes a signal you send outward, a quiet vibration that shapes the circumstances and people that show up in your life. Most people believe their lives are dictated by external events, but the truth is that external events are reflections. They are mirrors reflecting what is already taking place within. When you change your inner state, your expectations, your faith, your energy, you automatically shift the experiences that unfold around you. You have likely noticed moments when things seem to flow effortlessly. You wake up feeling grateful, calm, optimistic, and suddenly the day aligns gracefully. You meet kind people, opportunities arise, solutions appear where before there were only obstacles. That is not coincidence, that is alignment. In those moments, your inner state and the universal field are moving in harmony. You are no longer pushing against life, you are allowing it to support you. The universe responds not to your wishes, but to the energy behind them. If you want something desperately while believing deep down that you do not deserve it, the universe responds to the belief, not the request. Many people try to change their lives by changing outer conditions. They rearrange the furniture, change jobs, move to new cities, end relationships, start new ones, but wherever they go, they take themselves along. If fear, doubt, resentment, or unworthiness dominate inside, those same patterns will reappear in new environments. Transformation works from the inside outward. When you shift your inner state, you don't need to force change. It emerges naturally. You begin to act differently, choose differently, perceive differently. Possibilities that were invisible suddenly become visible, not because they did not exist before, but because your inner state was blocking your ability to see them. The universe communicates through resonance. What you hold emotionally becomes a magnet. Joy attracts experiences that reinforce joy. Gratitude opens the door to more to be grateful for. Fear calls forth situations that justify fear. This is not punishment or reward, it is alignment. Energy seeks its own level. You cannot hold a mindset of limitation and simultaneously expect abundance to flow. You cannot cling to resentment and expect relationships to thrive. You cannot live in self-doubt and expect opportunities to trust you with expansion. The universe simply mirrors the frequency you consistently broadcast. Think about a radio. If you tune the dial to a certain frequency, you receive the signal that corresponds to it. You don't blame the radio for not playing a different station. You simply adjust the dial. Your inner state is that dial. If you want a different experience, you adjust your emotional frequency. You do not need to struggle or force, you tune. When you tune to peace, you receive peace. When you tune to possibility, you receive possibility. When you tune to love, your world becomes filled with circumstances that reflect love back to you. Some people hear this and immediately think, so I have to pretend to be positive, but pretending does not shift your inner state. Suppression is not transformation. You cannot plaster a smile over fear and expect your life to change. The universe responds to authenticity, not performance. The work is not to fake positivity, but to gently examine the beliefs and emotions that create your current reality. Ask yourself, what am I expecting? What story am I telling myself? What emotions am I rehearsing daily? Your inner narrative becomes your outer experience. If your story is filled with lack, you live in lack. If your story is built on empowerment, you begin to act with courage and clarity. There is a profound difference between wanting and allowing. Wanting often comes with tension, with a feeling of separation from what you desire. Allowing comes from trust. When you allow, you create space for the universe to respond. You are no longer trying to control every detail, nor are you gripping tightly to outcomes. Instead, you cultivate the inner state that matches the life you envision. You embody it now, rather than waiting for external validation. The universe responds not when you finally achieve your goal, but when you become the version of yourself who aligns with it. You may have experienced times when you pursued something with force, pushing against resistance, trying to make things happen, only to feel exhausted and discouraged. The harder you pushed, the further the goal seemed to drift. Then suddenly, when you let go, when you relaxed, when you stopped obsessing over how it must unfold, the opportunity appeared effortlessly. That release shifted your inner state from resistance to openness. The universe could finally respond. Resistance blocks, openness invites. Your emotions are guidance. They are not random chemical reactions. They are indicators of alignment or misalignment. When you feel joy, enthusiasm, inspiration, you are aligned with the flow of the universe. When you feel heaviness, frustration, hopelessness, you are resisting that flow. Instead of judging those emotions, notice them. They show you where your focus is. They show you what you are creating internally. Treat them as signals, not enemies. You are not a victim of circumstance. You are a participant in creation. Your thoughts and emotions are creative tools. When used without awareness, they produce chaos. When used consciously, they shape a life filled with meaning and purpose. The universe responds not to momentary thoughts, but to the emotional patterns you practice consistently. One fearful thought does not create a fearful life, but a lifetime of rehearsing fear does. One moment of gratitude does not transform everything instantly, but living with gratitude shifts your entire energetic foundation. The inner state that you cultivate becomes a silent invitation. People can feel it. Opportunities can feel it. Life responds to it. When you walk into a room carrying calm confidence, others notice. When you carry quiet self-love, relationships deepen. When you carry trust, paths open. The universe delivers experiences that resonate with who you are being, not who you are wishing to be. Many individuals misunderstand the role of action. Action matters, but the energy behind action matters far more. Two people can take the same action, apply for the same job, start the same business, speak the same words, but receive completely different outcomes based on their inner state. One acts from fear of failure, the other acts from a belief in possibility. The universe responds accordingly. Action rooted in fear leads to struggle. Action rooted in alignment leads to flow. If you want to know the state of your inner world, look at the patterns in your life. Not isolated events, but patterns. Patterns reveal beliefs. Patterns reveal expectations. Patterns reveal the frequency you have been broadcasting. Instead of blaming circumstances, become curious. Ask, what inner state is this experience reflecting back to me? That question alone can transform your life, because it shifts your focus from external control to internal mastery. When you shift your inner state, you do not need to convince anyone. You do not need to prove your worth or argue for your dreams. The universe speaks a language beyond words. It responds to vibration, intention, and openness. When you embody the energy of what you desire, the external world reorganizes to match it. People show up, ideas emerge, resources align, synchronicities multiply. You begin to feel guided rather than lost. Your imagination plays a crucial role in this process. When you imagine a reality with emotional conviction, you are rehearsing the inner state that invites it into form. You are teaching your mind and body what it feels like to live that experience. The universe does not distinguish between a vividly imagined emotional state and a physically lived one. It responds to the frequency, not the form. This is why visualization, when paired with emotion, is so powerful. It is not fantasy, it is preparation. You may wonder why change feels difficult. It is because your inner state has momentum. Thoughts repeated become beliefs. Beliefs repeated become identity. Identity repeated becomes reality. To shift your life, you shift your identity, and that begins with shifting your inner state. You release the old stories, the old expectations, the emotional habits that no longer serve you. You cannot receive new experiences while clinging to old patterns. You must create space within yourself for the universe to deliver something different. The universe is always responding, always reflecting, always aligning with who you are being in this moment. Not who you were yesterday, not who you hope to become someday, but who you are now. Your inner state is the creative engine of your life, shaping every experience, every relationship, every opportunity. And when you truly understand that, when you embrace the power you hold within, you begin to awaken to a new way of living, one where you no longer wait for life to change before you feel differently, but instead, inner authorship, where you consciously choose the state from which you live. This does not mean ignoring reality. It means understanding that reality is shaped from within. When you begin the day by centering yourself in gratitude or calm, you are not simply performing a pleasant ritual. You are setting the frequency to which the universe responds. You are tuning your inner instrument so that life harmonizes with you rather than clashing against you. Think of a time when someone walked into a room with a contagious sense of joy or enthusiasm. Without them saying a word, the atmosphere shifted. People smiled more, felt lighter, became more open. That energy was not accidental. It was an expression of their inner state radiating outward. Now imagine the opposite. Someone filled with frustration or negativity enters a space, and suddenly tension rises, conversations grow strained, and people feel uneasy. Again, this is not coincidence. Energy is communicative. You are constantly broadcasting, and others are constantly responding. The universe operates in the same way on a broader scale. It reads the frequency you emit and aligns experiences accordingly. Your inner state does not only affect how you perceive life, it affects how life perceives you. Opportunities are drawn to those who believe they are worthy of them. Compassion gravitates toward those who embody kindness. Prosperity flows to those who feel abundant within. These are not merely poetic ideas. They describe a fundamental dynamic of existence. When you cultivate an inner state that matches the experiences you desire, the universe responds as though you have already stepped into that reality. But this understanding requires something many people resist: responsibility for their inner world. It is easier to blame circumstances, other people, or fate for what happens. It is easier to say life is unfair than to acknowledge the role our beliefs and emotions play. Yet true empowerment emerges when you stop assigning authority to external forces and recognize the creative power you hold. This is not about blame, it is about liberation. When you understand that your inner state shapes your experiences, you gain the ability to change them. Consider how often people repeat stories about themselves. I never get a break. People always take advantage of me. Nothing ever works out. These statements are not harmless. They reinforce beliefs that become emotional patterns. The more they are repeated, the more evidence the universe provides to validate them. This is not because the universe is cruel, but because it responds to consistency. It mirrors the story you insist upon. When you change your narrative, internally and emotionally, you change the reflection. You might wonder, if the universe responds to my inner state, why do negative things still happen when I feel positive? The answer lies in depth and duration. Brief moments of positivity cannot override deeply embedded beliefs and emotional habits. A single day of gratitude cannot undo years of rehearsed fear. Your inner state is shaped by what you repeatedly return to, not momentary fluctuations. Transformation requires consistency. Just as a seed needs time to grow, your new inner state needs nurturing before it fully manifests outwardly. However, even before external changes appear, you will feel internal shifts. A sense of peace emerges, anxiety lessens, hope grows, inspiration begins to guide you. These are signs that your inner state is changing, and the universe is preparing to align with it. Many people give up at this stage because they expect immediate results. They plant a seed and demand fruit the next day. But the universe moves in rhythm, and alignment unfolds in timing that supports growth. Trust in that timing is part of maintaining the inner state that attracts what you seek. There is also a profound truth about attention. What you focus on expands. If you dwell on problems, they feel larger. If you dwell on possibilities, they become more visible. Your attention is a powerful amplifier. When you give energy to fear, it grows. When you give energy to gratitude, it grows. The universe responds by offering more of what aligns with your focus. This is why shifting attention from what is lacking to what is present can transform your experience without anything outwardly changing. Some people believe that acknowledging what is good in their lives will make them complacent, as if appreciation prevents progress. In reality, gratitude enhances motivation, confidence, and clarity. When you appreciate what you have, you create a foundation of abundance from which expansion becomes natural. When you resist your current circumstances, you create tension that blocks growth. The universe responds more readily to an open heart than to a clenched fist. Your inner state also shapes your intuition. When you are aligned, calm, trusting, open, you become more attuned to subtle guidance. You notice synchronicities, insights, and impulses that lead you forward. When you are fearful or overwhelmed, your inner guidance becomes clouded. You second-guess yourself, overlook opportunities, or take actions rooted in panic rather than wisdom. The universe communicates through intuition, and your ability to hear it depends on your inner state. There is a quiet intelligence woven through life, guiding you toward growth and fulfillment. But it does not shout over the noise of fear or self-doubt. It whispers. To hear it, you must create inner stillness. You must cultivate an inner environment that allows clarity to rise. This does not require isolation or hours of meditation. It requires awareness. It requires choosing peace over panic, trust over control, openness over rigidity. Control is one of the greatest barriers to alignment. Many people try to dictate how and when their desires must appear. They script every detail, believing that forcing outcomes will bring security. But the universe often delivers in ways far more expansive than what you can imagine. When you cling to a specific plan, you limit the possibilities available to you. When you trust the process, you allow the universe to respond creatively. Letting go is not giving up, it is opening up. Think of the countless times in your life when something unexpected led to profound growth or joy. A chance meeting, a sudden change, an unplanned opportunity. These moments unfolded because you were not controlling every aspect of your path. The universe works through unpredictability, not chaos, but a higher order that reveals itself over time. When you cultivate an inner state of trust, you become willing to allow that order to guide you. Another essential aspect of inner alignment is self-worth. Many people desire abundance, love, or success, yet hold beliefs that they do not deserve them. They sabotage opportunities, reject compliments, or accept less than they truly want. The universe responds not only to your desires but to your sense of deserving. If you believe you are unworthy, you will unconsciously block what you seek. When you cultivate self-worth, you open the door for the universe to deliver. Self-worth is not arrogance. It is recognition of inherent value. It is understanding that you are a unique expression of life, worthy of love, joy, and fulfillment simply because you exist. When you internalize this truth, your inner state shifts dramatically. You make different choices, you set boundaries, you pursue opportunities that once intimidated you, and the universe responds by matching that expanded sense of value. Relationships provide some of the clearest reflections of your inner state. If you believe you must earn love, you will attract relationships that require effort without nourishment. If you fear abandonment, you may cling or push others away, reinforcing the very outcome you dread. If you hold unresolved resentment, you may draw partners who mirror that emotional tension. But when you cultivate inner love, respect, and openness, you attract relationships that reflect those qualities. This does not mean disregarding challenges within relationships. Rather, it means viewing them as invitations to examine your inner world. When conflict arises, ask yourself what belief or expectation it reveals. When patterns repeat, ask what emotional habit is being mirrored. Relationships become powerful catalysts for inner growth when approached with awareness. Another powerful truth is that the universe responds not only to your emotions, but to your embodiment. You cannot simply think differently, you must feel differently, act differently, and live differently. When your thoughts, emotions, and actions align, your inner state becomes coherent. That coherence is magnetic. It draws experiences with undeniable force. For example, if you desire financial abundance but consistently feel anxious about money and act from scarcity, your inner state contradicts your desire. The universe responds to the contradiction. But when you cultivate a feeling of abundance through gratitude, generosity, and trust, and take aligned actions, your inner and outer worlds begin to harmonize. Generosity is a powerful expression of abundance. When you give freely, not recklessly, but from genuine openness, you signal to the universe that you trust in the flow of resources. You demonstrate that you do not fear lack. The universe responds by sustaining that flow. Likewise, when you withhold out of fear, you reinforce the belief in scarcity, and the universe mirrors that belief. Creativity also thrives when your inner state is expansive. Inspiration flows when you are open, curious, and present. When you are tense or self-critical, creativity constricts. The universe communicates through inspiration, offering ideas, insights, and impulses that align with your purpose. When you nurture an inner state that supports creativity, you become a conduit for expression that feels effortless and meaningful. As you continue to explore the relationship between your inner state and the universe, you may notice subtle synchronicities, small signs that reflect your inner alignment. A message arrives at the perfect moment. A solution appears unexpectedly. You think of someone and they contact you. These experiences are not random. They are indicators that your inner state is resonating with the rhythm of life. The more aligned you become, the more frequently these synchronicities occur. They serve as gentle confirmations, reminders that you are participating in a responsive, intelligent universe. They encourage you to trust the process, to maintain your inner state, and to continue refining your awareness. And as this understanding deepens, you begin to recognize that the universe is not responding to isolated emotions or fleeting thoughts. It responds to the overall tone of your inner world. It responds to your dominant vibration, your practiced feelings, your repeated beliefs. You begin to see that your inner state is not merely a reaction to life. It is the source from which life unfolds. You begin to live not as someone waiting for change, but as someone generating it from within and from this place. You start to understand the profound simplicity of this truth. Life is always meeting you at the level of your inner state. When you elevate what is happening within, your thoughts, your emotions, your expectations, you elevate what unfolds around you. The universe is not withholding anything from you. It is responding to the signal you broadcast with unwavering fidelity. When you choose peace, life reflects peace. When you choose love, life reflects love. When you choose possibility, doors open that once seemed sealed shut. The power has always been within you, waiting for recognition, waiting for expression. So as you move forward, remember that the most transformative work you can do is internal. Nurture the beliefs that empower you. Cultivate emotions that uplift you. Focus on what you want to expand. Trust the timing, trust the process, and trust yourself. You are not separate from the creative intelligence of the universe. You are an extension of it, an active participant in its unfolding. When you align your inner state with the life you desire, the universe cannot help but respond. It is in its nature to do so. Let this understanding shape the way you wake up each morning, the way you speak to yourself, the way you interpret your experiences. Choose consciously, live intentionally, and hold the inner state that reflects the life you are ready to receive. Because the moment you do, the universe begins rearranging itself in your favor. Not someday, not in theory, but in the very real, tangible experiences that fill your days. Your inner world is the origin of your outer world. And when you honor that truth,